Hey, how you doing? I'm going to be doing something fun today, and it is red velvet bread. You won't find this one in your regular grocery store. You have to DIY. And it is a very challenging recipe, but let me challenge it for you. All right, so let's just go through the ingredients and then I'll tell you what I have done already to move the video along. So it's 1 1/2 cups buttermilk. All right, so this is 1 1/2 cups of buttermilk, 8 tablespoons of butter. So this is just my house butter, but it's usually one full stick. So 8 tablespoons of butter. 2 tablespoons red food coloring. So this is my red food coloring, and it's by L'Oreal Oils. This amount you have to get on the internet. They don't sell in the store, and this is about $8, and it's lasted me about 5 or 6 red velvet recipes, and it's 4 ounces. Okay, 1/2 cup water. So just 1/2 cup water, and put that in a bowl. Warm water, because we're going to activate the yeast. Okay, 2 packages of active dry yeast. So these are my 2 packages right here. 2 packages Fleischmann's Rapid Rise Instant Yeast, fast acting. All right. 1/2 cup sugar, plus some additional pinch for the yeast. 2 teaspoons table salt. So 2 teaspoons table salt. That's my house salt. 1/2 teaspoon baking soda. Baking soda. It's in the orange box. Okay, orange box. 1/4 cup cocoa. All right, 1/4 cup cocoa. 5 cups of flour. So I have all-purpose flour here. You could use all-purpose flour or bread flour, but this is easier to find during the pandemic. All right. Okay, so we have to activate the yeast. So I already did that. I activated the yeast, and this is what it looks like. So when you activate the yeast, remember it is 1/2 cup of warm water, 2 packages of active dry yeast, and a pinch of sugar. So that's 1 portion to activate the yeast. That's an important part of the recipe, and it is a good activation because it's foamy at the top. Smells sour. So it's a good activation. So I know this recipe will turn out okay. So again, that was 2 packs of active dry yeast, 1/2 cup warm water, and a pinch of sugar. Okay, now the other part of the recipe was the 1 1/2 cups buttermilk and the 8 tablespoons of butter. And I already had melted it in here. And that is the second part of the recipe. So what I'm going to do now is, let me show you what it looks like. So I'm just going to mix it around a little bit. But this is the butter and the buttermilk. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the red food coloring. Okay, so that is 2 tablespoons red food coloring. So what we're going to do is get 2 tablespoons, and then here's 1 tablespoon, and this is a deep red, and you'll see what I get from it. And it is looking pretty rich here. Okay, so let me try to bring that red food coloring up to you. And you could see it there. It's looking pretty rich. Okay, so let's get our bowl, our mixing bowl. Just kind of wash it off just a little bit here. Let's get our mixing bowl and put this all together. So this is 1 1/2 cups of buttermilk, 8 tablespoons of butter, and 2 tablespoons of red food coloring. So let's go ahead and mix it in. Okay, so here we go. So it's such a pretty rich red color. Okay. And then the next challenging part is to add the activated yeast. So we are going to go ahead and do that. We're going to combine the activated yeast. So we got the pretty red and the sour yeast. Okay. I'm going ahead and putting that in. And this is what your yeast should look like, kind of foamy and such. Okay, so let's just show you the combination of the two main ingredients here. Okay, you can see the yeast is all foamy. All right. Okay, so now for the final ingredients. Are you ready for this? 1/2 cup sugar. Okay, so let's see what the 1/2 cup is. 1/2 cup sugar. Boy, oh boy, it's a lot of sugar. This is not one of the healthier recipes, but it is yummy, yummy. 1/2 cup sugar. 2 teaspoons salt. Okay, so let's go with our teaspoon here. 2 teaspoons of salt. 1, 2. 1/2 teaspoon baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon baking soda. Okay, baking soda. Okay. 1/4 cup cocoa powder. So this definitely is what is going to give it its chocolate taste. It is not the red food coloring. It is this stuff right here. So it's going to be like chocolate bread. So the only place I've ever seen chocolate bread was at 85 degrees down here. They have like a mocha bread filled with like mochi in the middle. And I don't really see it anywhere else. So this is going to be like chocolate bread. It's going to be so delicious. So 1/4 cup cocoa. Okay, so that's what it looks like. 1/4 cup. And then it's asking for 2 cups right away of flour. So 2 cups of flour. Okay, so 1, 2. And we're going to slowly add in the last 3 cups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this a little bit by hand, and then when we slowly add the last 3 cups of flour, we'll see how it is going ahead and kneading. Okay, so Sophia, can you turn off that alarm over here? Okay. And then we're going to be adding the cups of flour, 3 more cups of flour. Okay, so this is what I'm getting so far. Kind of lumpy, but don't be worried. That's how we're gonna go ahead and continue. Okay, don't be alarmed by it. Okay, so gosh, it smells so good. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna slowly add in the last 3 cups of flour, and I'm gonna get my dough mixers to help me out. Okay. So go ahead and slowly add in the last. I'm gonna have to help this along. Let's get it moving along. Sometimes you gotta dig into your desserts to move it along. Okay, so this is it so far. This is what I have right here. So I just have to kind of knead it by hand a little bit. To move it along. So how do you like the challenge so far? This is not your typical bread, but I really wanted to try something different, and then I'll probably take a step back and just do regular bread after this. So the kids can make their sandwiches, and like their Spam sandwich, their bologna, or their turkey sandwich. All right, let's give it a shot here with our mixer and see if we get just a little bit more help. All right, so I am going to turn it over on my cutting board here. Okay. Ooh, one thing about cooking is the mess. But if you got time, you got the patience, you got the willpower, the mess ain't nothing. All right, so here we got it. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and flour my board here a little bit. And here is my ball of dough. Isn't that pretty? Totally looks pretty. I think it's so heavy too. It's like a dumbbell. I would say it's like a 2-pound dumbbell. But look at that. That is really pretty. I really appreciate the deep red color in this. All right, so just put a little bit of flour on it. Okay, so we did a good job in kneading it and getting it into this ball, adding the proper ingredients. Okay, so the next step is to kind of oil down the rising pan here. So this is a rising pan. I think I'm gonna go with a bigger one. Let's see, this is just a tad bit bigger. So you got to get the appropriate size of your rising pan. Yeah, I think I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I'll go with this one. So this one is on the bigger side, but the other two ones I think were just kind of small, so it didn't really give an area to expand. So I'm just cleaning this off here. All right, so the next step is to grease it down and put it in the oven. So what I do for this to help it rise is I preheat the oven to 200 and then turn it off, and then that is my environment for rising. So and it works well. Okay, so you kind of grease the pan, grease the bowl. Take your dough. Ooh, I love how heavy this is. And just put it straight into the pan, and there you go. So, take your towel, wrap it over the bowl. Okay. All right. Dough is so fun, but it's really, really messy. But I've been blessed with an awesome large kitchen and an awesome island to share these delicious recipes, so no complaints here. Okay, so I got a surprise for you. So we talked about covering the bread, preheating the oven to 200, then turning it off, and then letting the bread, that would be the environment for rising the bread, and then letting it sit and rise for an hour and a half. And so I got a surprise. So I actually have already done it. And this is, looks pretty good. All right, so this rose, and then when I took it out, it collapsed a little bit, but this rose and it's ready to get recooked. So when I say recooked, I mean it has to rise a second time. And this is why it's so, this bread recipes are so challenging, because they're not, when you think you're done, you're not really done. So I chose to make this loaf of bread in this super long, it's like a double size of pound cake pan. So it's really, really long. Okay, so I would say that's about maybe 20 inches. So that's what I decided to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I am going to go ahead and foil up that, and then I'm going to put some gloves on. I'm going to turn the dough over, and the fun part is we get to play with the dough again. Alright, so this is the dough that rose, double its size, and I get to play with it again. So here it goes. So it says in the recipe to gently punch it. So I guess it's gently punching it. You could put a little bit of flour on it. And this has a sweet and a sour smell at the same time. It truly has that doughy smell that you go, like when you go into a fresh bread bake shop. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and put it into this elongated rectangular pan here. And I hope I get a super rise out of this one. I'll be so proud if I get a super rise out of this one, because sometimes, like I said earlier, these recipes are challenging. Okay. So this will be up for the second rise. All right, so I'm going to try to get a couple of towels to cover it because it's so long. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven for its second rise. So I have my batch that we made on video rising, and then now we have this one as a sample after the first rising. Now I'm putting into the second rising, and then I'll have a surprise for you on what I do with my second batch. So this is my first batch. This is going to be a long red velvet loaf, and I'm trying to decide what to do with my second batch, but it'll be a surprise. All right, so I'll see you again after all these rises, and we'll go from there. Take care. Hey there, I'm back with my final product of the red velvet bread. So let me show you what I did here. So I went ahead and rose the dough that I showed earlier in the video for an hour, and this is what I got. There you go. So this is half of it because I already had cooked the other half, but definitely it was the size that I needed it to be to work for the recipe. So I'm going to show you what I promised I would do is form this bread into a surprise. So what I decided to do is like a morning bread, like a breakfast bread, or you could even use it like a slider for a sandwich if you're brave enough to put something tangy like a piece of ham in, or you could just put some butter in the middle and let it melt, or you can put some cream cheese and get like a sweeter version of it. But I'll show you what I did. So what I did is I went ahead and decided, like I said, to make it into like a dinner or a breakfast bun, or whatever you want to call it. It's just kind of unique because it could be used for all, because it's kind of sweet and tangy at the same time. So there it is. So I'll be bringing it up close to you to see that it rose, and then it kind of just lost its kind of rise because I took it out of the heat. And the way that I made this back into for the second rising is you take about a tablespoon's worth of the dough and put it into the muffin pan, and you do 3 of them. You kind of put it in there, so it kind of, I guess, blends into the muffin pan, and then I'm just going to keep doing this until the bread is gone. It's shaping well. They don't have to be perfect because they're just going to rise and shape themselves again. So that is a sample of a tablespoon size worth of dough. And this was a super challenge. I think I'll just do a super challenge with dough maybe once a week, because it is kind of, I guess, time consuming because you have to walk away, you have to rise it twice, but this is how bread is made. And definitely to the people that do this every day, much respect to get us fed. Okay, another sample. It's not perfect, but it'll do. It's about done here. So that particular recipe that I quoted earlier seems to make about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 20 muffins. Muffin size, not muffins, but muffin size rolls. Okay, let me do a big one here. So this is it in the muffin size tins. And then we are going to rise this again. So this is up for the second rising. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it like I did with my loaf of bread. Okay, and this helps it rise again. And I'm going to turn off the oven. I heated it to 200 to get that kind of warm environment to help it rise again. And this goes straight into the oven for the second rising. All right, that was fun. So, before I ended the video, you saw me put the bread into this handy dandy container here. This is like a super extra long loaf bread pan. So I went ahead and took it out, and this is what I got. There you go. So it's a beautiful piece of bread. I was kind of surprised at the taste. I was expecting it to actually taste like chocolate, but it did not. It tastes more like truly to what it is. It's bread, and I had to analyze the ingredients because as I was mixing the ingredients, a lot of the flavoring was that cocoa that you saw me mix, but you also saw me mix a large amount of buttermilk and butter. So yeah, I was surprised with the taste, and my son loves it. I had some, and this is truly a bread recipe. It is not cakey at all. It's not super sweet. It just has a tinge of sweetness, but it really has that flavor and that feel of bread. So let me bring it up close to you here. So this was one whole one, and it did rise. If I had used bread flour, it probably would have rose just a little bit taller. But all I had today was all-purpose flour, and it did serve its purpose. So bring it close up to you, and here it is. So my son already had some before bed, and he just loved it. So I sprinkled a little bit of sugar here, powdered sugar, to make it just a little aesthetically pleasing. Makes it look more, the appearance better. Of course, the top is imperfect like any local bread that you would get at the store. Cracks on the top there. But if you press it, it's like bread, kind of soft, goes back in place, kind of heavy at the top, kind of heavy. And then the same one with this. So the molded it really well. And you can actually reheat this, put butter on top of it. You could probably slice it up and make it into a secondary like French toast or something like that. Or you could just eat it plain with coffee. So I'm pretty impressed that it came out. This is actually like my first real loaf of bread, so I'm just kind of amazed that it actually came out, and then that there's actually a recipe for this. So that is what I use my first batch of red velvet bread for, and I promised I would try to decide what to use for my second batch. So what I decided to use for my second batch with the exact same recipe is little dinner rolls, buns, whatever you want to call it. So you saw me roll them up, 3 of them, put it into the muffin pan, and this is the result. All right, they're still pretty warm. Let me see if I can get a better picture for you. The bottom is formed. Super red. Another one here. Okay, so they're totally imperfect pieces of bread, because you saw how I did it. Again, rolled 3 and then dumped it into the little holders. So let's open one up. Let's see how they look. Oh, so it's just like the other one. It's nice because they kind of pull apart. You can kind of play with them. It's like pull apart bread. Okay, so I am just going to show you what you can do to kind of flavor them. Alright, so I'll probably slice one down the middle. Okay. Slice it down the middle like that. A little bit tough on the outside, but it's okay. Slice it down the middle like that and put some butter in. So it kind of fell apart because it's kind of like a pull apart bed. Okay, so butter in the middle. That's fun. Another way that you could probably eat this thing is, just like the regular bread that I made, you could probably sprinkle some. And probably sprinkle some dust on it, some powdered sugar on it, and then now you have a touch of sweetness on the top, like a muffin, but really it's bread. And then the next thing you could do, is, spread some frosting on the top to give it a little bit of sweetness, but not too much, because it's bread. So you could do it to one of these. These are the ones that I pulled apart. There we go. So you could do a lot of different ways you could do up this red velvet bread. So like I said earlier, I was expecting it to be more chocolatey, but it really has the taste of kind of bread. Maybe even just a tinge of sourdough mixed with a little bit of sweetness. So it's really good. If you don't like red velvet, you wouldn't like this recipe. So you have to love red velvet to get used to this recipe, and definitely have the time and the patience to go through with the recipe, and just organization skills to get all the ingredients right, because it could be messed up easily. I'll tell you, the first time that I did the video before this, I messed up just a little bit. I added just a little bit double sugar, but it doesn't change the recipe. It probably makes the batter sweeter, but double the sugar was not part of the recipe because I wasn't paying attention, but definitely still edible. So definitely try it if you are a red velvet lover and you love bread and carbs. This is probably the recipe for you. And let me know how it goes, and if you have any questions or comments about it, let me know, and I'll let you know my response on what you might ask, what you might wonder about it. Okay, so I'll let you go. I kept you long enough. Take care.